Alright guys, so this is going to be a quick video on using or installing both, I guess, Zorin OS, and it is a Linux operating system that's similar to Linux Mint in my opinion. It's supposed to be like a good replacement for Windows operating system, Windows desktop type operating system, so Windows 10 or 11 or whatever. But it's based off of Ubuntu, and Debian, so I like the underlying pieces of it. That's my favorite Linux distro is Ubuntu. And just like Linux Mint, Mint is based off of Ubuntu as well. So I was kind of torn between these two, so I wanted to do a video on both of them, just play around with them myself. My intent is to do some kind of development work on them. And so I'm going to install some tools like that. You don't have to install these tools that I was going to go through, or that I am going to go through on this video. But if you want to, you can. It's like Visual Studio, getting Git set up and installed. Adding no machine if you want to remote access it. Like if you're making it a VM instead of installing on older hardware or current hardware, whatever you want to do, you might want some remote control stuff. So no machine is, in my opinion, the preferred one for that. At least it seems to be pretty good. I don't have a lot of luck with XRDP, and VNC's iffy, just depends on which VNC you're using. So what I want to do though is this one I'm going to install on an older piece of hardware, and the reason I wanted to do that was because I wanted to demonstrate that you could take the older hardware that's no longer compatible with Windows 11. So basically anything that is 8th, 7th gen, like an example, 7th gen Intel and older does not run on Windows 11, which in my opinion, or Windows does not run on it. In my opinion, those are still pretty good CPUs, but apparently they're lacking some of the security pieces that are required for Windows 11. So when I talked about the Linux Mint, I kind of went over that a little bit, but what I wanted to show was that Zorin OS runs great on any of your older decent hardware. So like an example is this laptop I'm going to install it on is a Dell Precision M48. It's about 7 or 8 years old. It has a 4th gen i7 and it thing's fantastic if you think about it. Like it's still got a lot of juice, 16 gigs of RAM. It's a great laptop, but it won't run Windows 11. So Zorin OS, I'm going to install it on there and we'll see how it performs and what that process looks like. So the first thing we're going to do though is we need to get Zorin, the Zorin ISO burned, if you will, to the USB drive so that we can go ahead and boot this laptop on that USB drive. So let me find a USB stick here. I got one here. See this guy? I'm going to plug it in. Sorry. USB, you know, the 50% chance you'll get it right and you always get it wrong. Okay, so I went ahead and plugged it in. So I've already got Zorin OS on there. That's okay. It's the same USB I used as when I was recording the install or testing the install. So that's fine. We'll just go ahead and close that window. But what I wanted to show you was the Rufus tool that I use for burning it to an ISO or creating a bootable USB from an ISO. So Rufus, if we click this link here, it just opens up Rufus. Rufus has got like a million ads. I know it's kind of, it's kind of smart for the Rufus developer, but it kind of looks like you're downloading some kind of janky Minecraft stuff, but that's not the case. If you want, you can Google Rufus yourself and follow the links that way. That's probably the best way to do it, frankly, because chances are the results in Google would be a little more trustworthy. I'm not saying I'm not, but you never know. Like if something happened to somebody hacked my website or something and put a wrong link in there, like they can't hack Google. Well, I guess you could, but it's a whole lot harder, I suppose. With that said, Rufus, we're going to download the portable one. It's 4.6p because I don't want to have to install it. I just want to run it. So I've already got it downloaded. It's actually I didn't even download the portable one, did I? Well, what the heck? Let's just download this one then. Oh my gosh, the ads are crazy. Okay. Rufus 4.6p for portable. So we'll run this, and oops, and you'll see here, it just pops up the window just like it showed in the demo or the screenshot on their site. And you can see it's got one device plugged in. So my USB stick is currently plugged in, it's 120 gigs. I would be very cautious of this. So if you've got multiple drives plugged in, make sure you're picking the right one. If you want to test that, you can unplug it, plug it back in or whatever. But if it's only one and it matches the size, it's likely the one. But I'm just letting you know because it's going to wipe out everything that's on it. So be very cautious of which one you're picking. And then we want to do a disk or ISO image. So we're going to go ahead and check that and we're going to hit select. And then it's going to pop up and let you pick which ISO you want to use. So we're going to pick the Zorin OS. I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And it picks everything here for me. Like for the most part, I don't ever have to change any of these other options. I'm just going to hit the start button I'm going to go ahead and go with recommended, and then I'm going to go ahead and say yes, it's going to destroy everything. That's absolutely fine. I don't care. It's going to format it. It'll probably pop it up here again. Usually Windows likes to help you out. I'll just close that window because I don't need it. And it's going to copy the ISO files across. So this takes a little bit of time. Just depends on how fast your stick is, or USB memory stick. In my case, it should be pretty quick, so I don't know why that's as slow as it is, but this should be pretty quick. So we'll go ahead and pause it. Oh my gosh, it's taking absolutely forever. So if yours is doing the same, it's probably fine. I'll let you know as soon as it's done here. All right, so it's finally finished. It took a little bit of time, 7.5 minutes. That's surprising, to be honest with you. I think maybe it's this particular memory stick. I don't know, but usually it's faster than that. But that's it. So next we're going to go ahead and plug it into the laptop and give it an install. Okay, so now that we've went and used Rufus to get the image, the Zorin OS image put onto this USB stick, we're going to go ahead and put it into the USB drive over here, or USB port rather, not drive. Plug it in, turn this on, and there's already an OS on this system, so I'm going to go ahead and just make sure I get to the boot menu. Perfect. This particular laptop is a Dell Precision M4800, and it has a 4K screen, which kind of complicates some of this. Hopefully it doesn't give us any issues, but you can see how small that font is right there. It's pretty crazy how small it is. We're going to go ahead and just say try or install Zorin OS, so just the default option. And let's see if we can skip this. Yes, check skipped. So this is an older CPU, like I was talking about earlier on, and it doesn't have the capabilities supposedly to run Windows 11. So you can go ahead and hit try if you want. It goes to the desktop and lets you play with it, or you can just go ahead and hit install, which is what we're going to do. And it's just going to give you some basic questions here. Connect to this network. Let's go ahead and connect to my Wi-Fi. Yeah, go ahead and download updates. That's fine. Install third-party software for graphics. That's fine. Okay, so it happens to have Zorin OS on there. That's right. I had messed around with that. I'm going to go ahead and erase the disk. Depending on what's on here, if it was a Windows OS like it was prior, you could technically have it boot alongside and dual boot if you want. In this case, I'm just going to have it erase everything and just put Zorin on there. And we'll go ahead and get this going. And I'm not going to use LVM for this. I don't see any benefit. If you like LVM, you can go ahead and hit the advanced features and it'll let you choose an LVM, I believe. Now, let's just pick a, there we go. Your name. So we'll go with G, computer name, and go ahead and hit continue. If you want, you can have it auto login. I don't recommend auto login unless you don't have anything on there that you don't want people getting to. I mean, if somebody steals your laptop, then they can hack the password, but physically speaking, or likely. But if it's just like in your house and you didn't want somebody just logging into it, it's best to have it so at least some kind of password on there. Looks like it's doing a update as it's installing, so let's go ahead and expand that and you can see what it's actually doing. Okay, so now that it's done, it's just asking for a reboot, so we're going to go ahead and say restart now. I think it's going to end up asking me to take out the USB stick, which it should, but it's media, so we're going to go ahead and plug that, put it here, and then hit enter. Now it's going to boot up, and it's going to boot into the Zorin OS that was just installed. All right, let's go ahead and log in. Made it a super simple password here. Cool. Okay, so first look at this interface. What I wanted to do, oh, it does show you this tour thing. This is just like Linux Mint had the same kind of tour. So start tour tells you basically click here and you can get to your apps. And it's got this cool little start menu. It kind of looks Windows-esque. Let's see, you can change the appearance just like Linux Mint. And in this case, I'm going to leave the same, but I am going to change the theme. I do happen to like this hybrid theme where it's kind of like a little bit dark, but a little bit white as well. And then a couple of these options here, one of them I do like icons on my desktop personally, so I'm going to go ahead and check all those. And then I think that's the only thing I like to change. So we're going to go ahead and close this, and then we can hit next. I don't want to connect my online accounts. I don't want to launch that. Software, it's got the same kind of software store that Linux Mint has. I think it's probably got some better options. Maybe, or maybe it's identical. I'm not sure. We're going to go ahead and hit next here, and I'm going to go ahead and hit close, and it's basically telling me I've got updates already. One of the things I wanted to do, though, really quick was set the display settings. So I right-clicked on the desktop. It's got a nice drop-down just like Windows does. And I should be able to set this to 1920. I want to mirror this, and I want 100%. So I have two monitors. I've got one that's this attached screen, and then I do happen to have OBS recording at the same time. So if I hit apply here, we'll go ahead and say keep changes. Wow. That's crazy. So there we go. This settings screen got way too big because of the screen res change. So now I'm running 1920 by 1080 instead of a 4K res like this monitor has. I don't know, I feel like it's a little bit faster. The 4K is okay on the screen, but your refresh rate's not as good when you're running 4K because this is an older laptop, and so you get probably max of 60 hertz, I think, with that, and then that's probably actually 30 or something. You can feel the difference between the two. Plus, it's way more pixels, and on this screen, it's pretty hard to see, so I would run just this 1920 by 1080. All right, we can go ahead and install these updates. Oh, I thought it was going to add that. There we go. It is going to ask me. So one of the things I wanted to do was the same kind of stuff I did on Linux Mint. So we're going to go ahead and open up the terminal as well. And then I'm also going to pin this to the dash. So I right-clicked on it. It'll permanently stay there even when I close it. So now I've got the terminal. I happen to like terminals. So I do a lot of things through the terminal just because it's, I don't know, I just happen to like the command line interface. So we're going to go ahead and do some installs through here and set that up. So let's switch to root. And let's go ahead and open up Firefox. I don't want this. What are we doing here? Okay, and then we're going to go to itsgeekhead.com, which is my website, and we're going to go over to Technology Tutorials, go to More, and we're going to go to the Linux Mint one, because it's got the same kind of steps I wanted to run. So first thing we want to do is get an SSH session going, or capability. This is one of those things that if you don't use, if you would never remote into this, I wouldn't recommend installing. Oh, that's right, I got the updates going at the same time. I wouldn't recommend installing SSH unless you intend to SSH to it from remote locations. So because it does expose a little bit, right? If somebody's on the network that you're on, and they'll be able to see that port 22 is open, and they'll be able to try to log into it. So it's not necessarily the best idea unless, of course, you have intent of using SSH. In my case, I would like to use SSH. I like to SSH in from other systems, so I'm going to go ahead and install it. So go ahead and hit yes. Now it's installing SSH for me. And it had a pop-up here a second ago. Can I get back to that notification? Yeah, right here, look at that. So I clicked on the bottom right here. Hold on just a second, let me get my face cam out of the way. So I clicked on the bottom right here. Yeah, it's the clock, which is underneath of my logo. And it kind of pops up something similar to Windows, right, where you have a pop-up here, it's got your clock and stuff like that, but it also has notifications. So one of the things it said was that I've got some additional drivers available. I'm curious what those drivers are. Let's take a quick look. So it's the NVIDIA. I mean, it's up to you. If you want the full performance of your NVIDIA card, which this laptop happens to have a pretty good NVIDIA card, you can install them. I'm going to not install it right now, and we'll just leave it alone as is. You can play around with that. My experience with NVIDIA drivers has been mixed in Linux world. It's better now, but back in the day it was pretty complicated sometimes if your driver didn't work right, or when you updated it, it didn't update the kernel correctly and stuff like that. So if you just stay with the Novoy, I don't know how you pronounce that, driver, you'll have less issues. If you don't need the performance, then it's up to you. Like if you're playing video games, you're going to want the NVIDIA driver there. All right, so just like the other ones, just like Linux Mint, not the other ones, I'm going to go ahead and install a couple different things. So let's go ahead and get Google Chrome installed. We'll do it from the command line as well. Should be pretty quick. And then VS Code, I've got all this stuff that I use for VS Code. Should be pretty quick as well. Go ahead and paste this. A whole bunch of things it's going to run through. And then, ooh, that's a fast scroll, geez. One of the things I want to do is the Starship prompt. I happen to really like this. Changes your CLI. Okay, so let's install the Starship prompt. It's pretty fast. And then you basically just have to put the execution of it in your bash RC. So we'll do it for both the root account as well as I'm going to open a new tab here. And we'll go ahead and paste that here. So you look at the prompt right now. See how it's basic, right? That's just your basic prompt. Now I'm going to go ahead and open another tab. And since I added this just now to the bash RC, the next tab is going to actually use Starship. And so you can see the difference between the two. Here is a regular one. Okay, so now that we've got a couple of these things installed, including the Starship prompt, we're going to go ahead and show how you can get to them. So programming, we've added Visual Studio Code, which is really interesting that it doesn't have the appropriate icon, which I'm pretty sure it did in Linux Mint. And then also if we go to Internet, we have Google Chrome, which we installed. And so we can go ahead and as soon as that starts up, no, I'm not going to sign in. There we go. Got it. Okay, so we should be able to pin this one as well, pin the dash. So now you've added them to basically to your taskbar. And we can go ahead and close them and they'll stay there. So we've got these permanently here. Again, this is kind of odd. My opinion is that it should have had a better icon like that. Why is it using this icon? That's kind of crazy. However, Visual Studio, that's interesting. So I did not install it through the software, but it looks like you can actually install it through the software app as well, which is pretty easy then to install things that you might want on your environment. I wonder if you can look at these from, ooh, look at what's under play. Let's get distracted here. Nothing? Nothing's under play? Okay, how about develop? Really? I wonder if it's still indexing something. There it goes. Adventure Editor. Android Studio, that's pretty impressive. I'm curious how well that works on here. It's an older computer, it might actually work pretty good. Oh, that was one thing we were going to check out real quick was what is the hardware specs of this? I think that would be under About. Here you go. i7 4810, so this is a 4th gen, so this would not run Windows 11. 16 gigs of RAM, 256 gig, I think it's an SSD. Pretty slick. So overall, I think this is an excellent operating system. I think you could definitely do development work on here without any problem. If you wanted to play some games, you probably could get away with some decent games, like if you installed Steam or something like that. But I certainly think this is a good alternative to throwing the device away because it won't run Windows 11. So I hope this was useful for you. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you've got any questions, and I'll try to answer them. Thanks.